What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Chaos is hitting Microsoft. That 100-day reset is underway, and it's getting pretty ugly. Things were happening so fast yesterday, I was trying to keep up. We're gonna go over that here today, and then probably be outdated at this rate by today. Also, we're going to be talking about Nintendo facing a security situation with a certain breach that appears to have happened, and people were then reminded of the Giga Leak. Not quite there, but Nintendo is technically facing a ransom over this, so we'll see what's happening with that. And we have EA, who is exploring in-game ads, something we've heard before, but this time they have a kind of an interesting strategy that I think is going to find its way into many different games over the coming years, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Microsoft, but this time the ability to purchase an Xbox that has only gotten more and more expensive throughout the generation. We are seeing different ways that companies are offering purchase options, and one of the big ones that popped up is something like Klarna, where it's buy now, pay later. And it seems like that's also something that Microsoft is looking into, because we can see. Now, this is over on social media from Red PHX saying the Xbox website will have the buy now, pay later feature via PayPal and Klarna. So there you go. And again, a lot of this has to do with the idea that we're kind of thinking the next Xbox is Project Helix. They will have, I'm going to say, just at least options that are $1,000 or more. I think it's possible they have other SKUs similar to an Xbox Series S, maybe, that will just be cheaper. But I say cheaper in the sense that, oh, it'll be $650. It's essentially just gaming in general now for consoles is more expensive than ever. So we are to the point now where you, in a way, do just kind of finance your system. Not that that's necessarily too new, since people used to just put them on their credit cards, and they still do, but it's just, it becomes very noticeable when even the companies trying to sell the systems are like, man, we should figure out other ways for customers to finance these things. Also, do you remember that Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition that's leaked out now multiple times, and we thought we would see it during the wave of showcases, but we didn't. Now, however, we are actually seeing it because it's just kind of leaked out. Like, there's the images here. And I don't know what's going on here with Sega with this whole thing, but there are images that were floating around. I saw it on Reddit where a person had a picture of it here, the front and the back, and there it is, Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. It appears to be a Switch 2 edition specifically. It does have, it looks like, the DLC and a few other digital things on there. Well, I say on there, it is a game key card, but in terms of the overall game package, right, it will be downloading a bunch of additional stuff. But it kind of looks like this is Sega's way of going, okay, we're releasing a new version of Sonic Frontiers, and I'd be kind of shocked if there was any kind of upgrade path for this one. It'd be nice, because then if you have Sonic Frontiers, oh, here, it's $10 more, and you get the Switch 2 Definitive Edition. I think the idea of including things like DLC and other digital add-ons is a way for them to say, hey, this is new, it's different, so it's also now full price again. We don't really know what the enhancements are or anything. I assume frame rate, resolution will just be better, but I think it's supposed to come out next week, so we should see Sega at least make some kind of announcement on this here pretty soon. Oh, and next month, of course, Halo will be making the jump to PlayStation 5, and it seems like the audience there is receiving the game pretty well. I mean, like, we could see, this is over on Push Square, who has noted this on different storefronts here for Sony, so different regions, the UK, France, and others. Halo has actually climbed to the top of the list in terms of just pre-orders. Now, I believe this is generally like revenue, so there are some where, for example, there's just more expensive versions that are above it, but also in the US, I mean, you have college football and Madden and Wolverine ahead of it, and Call of Duty. But that's not bad that's really all you're trailing there, and for the most part, Halo is right there with them. So I do think Halo is going to do pretty well on the PlayStation 5 for Halo Campaign Evolved at the end of next month in July. If nothing else, for the novelty factor, I am interested myself in just getting a physical copy, seeing it there with the box art. I'll be doing all of that. I'll get it on the Xbox as well. And I mean, I'm a big fan of Halo, so it's absolutely disgusting looking to see Sony on the cover, but I mean, I gotta have it. It's one of those weird rarity things. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with all I can, really say at this point, just an evolving story as we go along throughout yesterday and certainly into today. And that has to do with chaos exploding around Xbox. So what we're seeing currently is that there are a few safe studios at Microsoft, but for the most part, like anything could happen at this point, okay? And it started out earlier in the day. We can see this. Now, this is over on The Game Business. Says the head of Xbox Game Studios, Craig Duncan, has stepped down after more than 18 months in his role. His studios will report to Xbox Chief Content Officer Matt Booty until a replacement is found, okay? But then to follow that up, Xbox Game Studios Chief of Staff Luis O'Connor will also be leaving the company. So when this popped up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's been there for a year and a half, and him and Luis now are leaving or stepping down. That's odd, but we did, of course, hear from Ashish Sharma that a 100-day reset was on, which is, I mean, all we can really describe is just a massive, massive shakeup. It sounds like they've kind of flipped the board. Now they're rearranging the pieces at this point. But then it continued on from there when we started to hear about multiple different studios that were at risk of complete closure. So, like, we can see, this is over on Kotaku. Xbox is planning to shut down Compulsion Games, developer of Peabody Award-winning South of Midnight and We Happy Few, Kotaku has learned. We had already talked about this, how over on Reset Era, a person just posted, hey, I have some friends and they were laid off and they were told that the studio's closing down, and they kind of let it slip that it was Compulsion Games, so they had to go back and it looked like they deleted that post, but the internet never forgets. So I will say this, not as surprising because we already had that news going around from that forum post, but then to continue on, later in the day, Jason Schreier had a report on Bloomberg saying several studios in Microsoft Corp's Xbox gaming division, including Montreal-based Compulsion Games and San Francisco-based Double Fine, are in active negotiations to spin off as they try to thwart closure, according to people familiar with the company's plans. Cambridge, England-based Ninja Theory, the maker of Hellblade, is also in conversations with Xbox, as are several other studios across the portfolio that are at risk of being shuttered. So after all of this went down, apparently there was a call like a few hours before The Verge reported that Ninja Theory is just being shut down, but it is currently looking for a buyer in an attempt to spin off. So really just falling in line with what Jason Schreier had reported on Bloomberg, but being a bit more upfront that, hey, they kind of have to, like, Ninja Theory has to find someone who wants to buy them essentially or bankroll them. Maybe they can find like a large investor or someone that wants to come in and allow them to, I mean, they got bought years and years ago, but then really just spin back off and become an independent studio. This one is really weird because they just announced a game at the Xbox Game Showcase. They announced Senua, and it seemed like, oh, okay, here's just more Hellblade, but they at least understand some of the pitfalls or some of the criticisms around Hellblade 2 when it came to the action and the combat. Oh, okay, they're changing some things up. Still looks very graphically impressive, but it also kind of felt like they were turning it around a little faster than Hellblade 2 took a while. This one looked like it was further along and maybe could come out next year. But now, days later after the event, we're talking about how they are at risk of just closing down. I don't really know what happens, though, to the Senua game if they close down. Like, do they have, I guess maybe Xbox has enough staff, or they can bring in a support studio, or maybe just have some people stay on at Ninja Theory to get it done and then ship the thing. So that, it's very odd. And this is the thing. We hear about these like last minute decisions almost that are made at Xbox recently and I mean, they say that there was no PlayStation 5 version of Gears of War E-Day. Then they show the card with the PS5 logo. We hear from reports that there is a PS5 version like ready to go and it was last minute. When I see something like this, I go, they really are making the decisions like they're flying by the seat of their pants at this point, where one day it seems like, all right, everything's fine, and then the next day the sky's falling. But then things get even worse because Mike Strahl over at Insider Gaming was talking about a couple of different studios, with one that I saw being Arcane, and I saw this and I went, really? They had just talked about it. Again, we just saw Senua. Okay, now Ninja Theory apparently has like 2 weeks before they're getting shut down to find a buyer to let them go independent. Arcane, we just heard from them that, oh no, let us cook, because they're working on Blade. And man, this is a franchise that needs a win. At this point, it just needs a product come out because the movie was in turmoil, in flux constantly. And then it seemed like the game, just by way of it being fairly quiet around it in terms of reports of it being canceled or shut down, while a lot of things are being canceled, seemed like it was all right. But then I see this and I go, really? Would they close down Arcane and cancel Blade? Because it has to be years, I mean, obviously years into development. It's a deal between Microsoft and Marvel. So that would be really disappointing because I would just like to see what they come up with here for what you would assume to be a franchise or an IP that should adapt very, very well into a video game. And just at this point, I wouldn't be surprised to hear, honestly, most studios under Microsoft currently, they end up, oh, you guys are going to be shut down unless you can spin off somehow with a venture fund or somebody to come in and let you go independent. And I think there are still some safe studios. Obviously, Mojang with Minecraft, like, they're not going anywhere. That's pretty clear. I think the Playground Games right now with Fable and then Forza Horizon 6, they're safe. Halo at this point should be safe, just because think about the games that we heard recently that Asha Sharma apparently is looking to speedrun, we'll say, a big release. Halo was one, Fallout 5 was one, and then Elder Scrolls 6. So teams that have to work on those games, they're probably fine. And then also, I would assume the Call of Duty teams should be fine. So then it's like, well, who else? I saw id come up and I said, no, really? Would they shut down id? Because that would be rough. And then I also think about like some cancellations that could happen outside of Blade, but like OD with Kojima, would they shut that down? Because that was obviously something it seemed like Phil was putting together with Kojima, getting that partnership done. And it's a weird game. We've already seen it, but we've also already seen Senua and Blade. So at this point, nothing's off the table, and it's gonna get ugly. Nate mentioned that it's gonna be rough here for a bit, and this 100-day speed run of a reset, I mean, they're going to break some eggs, and it's not going to be great. But I think the end goal right now for Microsoft, and it's funny to say because for how many years now have they been championing Game Pass? I think they're kind of working away from the current model of Game Pass and trying to go back to the idea of just selling games. Can they do that? Can they retrain their audience to not rely on Game Pass for day one big releases? That's hard to say. They got some work to do with that, certainly, to restructure Game Pass into a cheaper version of itself, but then also be able to sell $60 or $70 or $80 games. That's going to be something interesting to watch. But it's going to be tough to keep up with because so much news is dropping. So, of course, stay tuned here because I will do my best to keep you guys up to date as we go along. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and an apparent data breach that's currently affecting them through way of a ransom. Yes, a group is asking Nintendo for money so that they don't leak out any confidential details. And when this happens, people do have that moment of, that's not good. But then they go, what are they about to leak? Well, this one in particular is like really not good because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with games. It actually has to do with just the employees trying to make the games. Okay, so we can see, now this is over on Technadu, and they say a threat actor using the handle Shadow Byte. See, I don't really know are people still spelling names with like numbers and symbols? It's a 3 and a $sign. It feels so MySpace, Xbox 360 gamer handle days. I don't know if that's really a thing much anymore. Anyway, they say claims to have breached Nintendo, allegedly stealing approximately 859 megabytes of data sourced from Tiny Pulse systems. So you might say, wait, less than a gigabyte of data? Well, okay, if these are game files, you'd go, that's not much of anything. That's like Xbox Live arcade days, and even that was larger than this. Well, this would be like spreadsheets of information, text documents. And when you think about it in that light, you're like, wow, actually, that's a lot of information. Okay, well, this claim was observed June 13th, 2026, and it's not been confirmed necessarily, so the people are still kind of looking into this. However, what have they taken? Allegedly, employee names, email addresses, surveys, analytics reports, bank statement PDFs, W-9 forms, workplace feedback, and employee progress reports. There's even a whole write-up here from them, apparently claiming all of this, and then demanding $2 million from Nintendo. Okay, so with Shadow Byte, they got this apparently from Tiny Pulse Systems, and that's sort of, it's like a gateway or a central hub for employees to have immediate feedback to their employer. And at times it can be anonymous, and it can be just like, hey, the lunchroom, there was this issue, something like that, or just what your times are there, what's going on. You could talk directly with HR. It's just a way for employees to, rather than do that big annual review at the end of the year, do smaller reviews, we'll say, or just feedback. But because of this, there is a lot of employee information that is stored there, and that seems to be what they were targeting. Now, will Nintendo pay $2 million to this hacker group that used a dollar sign in the name? Probably not. Most likely Nintendo would rather take the $2 million and spend it on like identity fraud protection for their employees, because as we've talked about this with all these different ransomware things that pop up through these security breaches, once a company pays one of these ransomware groups, these hacking groups, well, at that point, the floodgates open and they realize, oh, this is a source of revenue, even if it's just like some standard, we'll say, employee information, not like highly confidential game files. Or that's how the whole thing around Insomniac, remember, that leaked out. And it was a similar situation. They said, nah, just go ahead and leak it, whatever. And I mean, Insomniac's still making Wolverine despite the whole thing leaking out. So in this case, I think Nintendo will certainly follow up. We've talked about companies that you technically, you really don't want to mess too much with, poke the bear. It's like Nintendo, Take-Two, those are big ones. And this is a situation where Nintendo would be like, all right, we're going to invest $2 million in our like employee protections for online like identity and stuff. And then we're going to see how much Hitman 47, Agent 47 costs from Hitman. It's that kind of situation with Nintendo. But hey, I mean, I guess if they leak it, we'll find out what the Nintendo employees there think about the Nintendo workplace. There you go. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about in-game advertisements, something that's been going on for a long time now. I mean, I remember it specifically from the Xbox 360 days, but as people have pointed out, we've talked about Pizza Hut in Crazy Taxi, and probably even before then. But what about a more dynamic advertising system in your games? That's something that EA is currently exploring because they put out a press release for this, and we can see. Now, they say Electronic Arts has launched EA Advertising, its new platform dedicated to specifically to in-game ads and brand partnerships. Going to say EA Advertising is expanding EA's ecosystem by enabling brands to integrate directly into gameplay through dynamic real-time placements, from stadium signage to custom in-game content designed to enhance, not disrupt, the player experience. In these interactive gameplay environments, brands become part of the game itself. Reflecting how players engage with advertising in real-world contexts, brands can activate across live environments, tailoring placements to meet campaign objectives and update campaigns with ongoing optimization informed by aggregated engagement insights. So yes, they are tracking a lot of your data, your mannerisms in games, and they're going to try to figure out where they can put the KFC billboard or really any kind of advertising, say in FIFA, where you look around and they have advertising for a sports store or something at the bottom around the arenas. Those sorts of things can be changed on the fly if you're connected to the internet. And if you're playing a multiplayer game online, you're connected to the internet. So it's pretty straightforward for them to do that with those instances. And EA, obviously, the thing they're really talking about, by the way, in this press release, like really showing off, it's the sports games. FIFA is mentioned, Madden is mentioned, but think about open world style games, and this, again, has been pitched for a long time now, where advertising would be placed in real time. Let's say you're in a Forza Horizon 6, just as an example. You're driving around. There's a billboard in real time, depending on maybe the last thing you were looking up on, it's say with Windows PC, but with your Xbox account or something, it can advertise it there. Or if an advertiser knows that you're really into, we say pizza, they can show you a Domino's billboard or something. You go, you know what? I kind of do want Domino's tonight. And then that technically works out for them with that advertising. But it's EA trying to figure out how to, yes, get more money out of their games without putting a big ad in front of you that pauses your game for 30 seconds while you watch or interact with it. So I think this is something we'll be seeing more and more of as we go along, because if you look around, our games are only getting more and more connected. They just need to try to figure out ways to get it into the games without you necessarily noticing it outright. More like subliminal messaging at times when you're driving around an open world game or swinging around a Spider-Man or playing Madden or FIFA and there's advertising. Well, I would say unlike the big boards, but who knows, maybe they'll just put it right on the field. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you use a video streaming service, do you prefer to pay more for no ads or pay less and deal with ads? Okay, yeah, pay more, no ads is 67%, pay less, deal with ads, 33%. So my thing, and I see people in the comments like, I just pirate everything. I mean, that's, all right, but this is more for, like Netflix and I think Hulu and others, they have different tiers depending on how many ads you want to see. It's kind of like that. Would you pay $25 a month and have 4K, no ads, or $15 a month and have like 1440p or like somewhat decent 1080p and some ads? And everybody kind of has that value proposition in their mind. Like for me, I do watch a lot of YouTube, so like YouTube Premium makes a lot of sense for me. I pay it monthly and then I don't have any ads at all. And it's actually very, very nice outright. So without sounding like I'm trying to sell you on it, I actually think it is a pretty good value, at least at this time. Who knows? Subscription services go up constantly. You might be watching this 6 years in the future and you're like, man, this thing is real expensive. I don't know. At least for now, it's pretty good. So I prefer to pay more and just skip out on ads, but I know it's not necessarily the case for everyone. And in some ways, if you want to try something and it has a free tier with ads, like like Game Pass cloud streaming or something, and it's like, hey, watch an ad for 30 seconds, then you get 10 minutes of gameplay, there probably will be people who try that just to see what the experience is like without having to put any money in. And we'll finish up with the comment of the days you're seeing here. This is from Inferno, who says, if GTA 6 gets delayed again, I'm going to laugh up a lung. Probably both of them. If GTA 6 gets delayed into 2027, there will be a whole new like scramble. Before it was like, hey, let's get our games out in September and in October and just avoid November. I think, let's say July, new trailer for GTA 6 comes out. Also, it's now releasing first half of 2027. I actually do think you would see some games shift around, maybe get out of September into November or October into November. I think you would see somewhat of a shuffling of the board there. But I think GTA 6 is coming out in November. But man, it would be crazy if it didn't and it came out in 2027. That would be absolute chaos the day they announced that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear more about how chaotic the upcoming holiday season is with game releases. I did an entire video going like month by month, checking out all the games that are coming out. And I did it in a video I'll leave it right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.